Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is Bleach Soul Society, The Rescue Arc, episode 57, Senbon Sakura Crushed, Zangetsu Thrusts Through the Sky. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So, the episode does begin where the last left off with Sui Feng versus Yoruichi, and they're about to use their demon magic, and Sui Feng attacks, and Yoruichi manages to stop it by doing demon magic of the same quality and power, but in reverse, which basically cancels out Sui Feng's magic, neutralizing her attack, which then sends Sui Feng into like a whole meltdown about how, the 100 years of separation was supposed to make her strong enough to surpass her, while Yoruichi ended up decaying, and she still hasn't, and it's so terrible. And then we're treated to half an episode flashback of Sui Feng being told by her clan that they are going to serve Yoruichi's clan, and that she needs to give her life for Yoruichi, and she then meets Yoruichi in person after she joins the corrections department, and she basically loves and worships her, and Yoruichi kind of takes her under her wing, and they form a bond as they fight hollows together and do other Shinigami things together, and Yoruichi comes to consider her like a little sister, and Sui Feng promises to always be by her side and protect her. And Yoruichi says that yes, it's a promise, but then Sui Feng comes back one day and she's gone with no farewell, no word, nothing, and this is where all of Sui Feng's murderous hatred comes from, is that Yoruichi left without saying goodbye. Which honestly is a bit disappointing. We then move on after they finish their attacks, and their battle is pretty much done with Sui Feng breaking down and kind of crying about, how heartbroken she is. We then move on to Ikkaku and Aiba, who had left to fight each other, and they're basically passing a drink bottle back and forth instead of actually fighting while they kind of smack talk. Then Aiba gets the last sip, and Ikkaku then is like, okay, now we're going to fight, and they run off to fight together. Before we then move on to Ichigo and Byakuya, who round off the episode, and they both start with their regular base swords before Ichigo's like, use your Bankai, I'm going to defeat you because how dare you say you're going to execute your own little sister by your own hands. Absolutely unacceptable. I'm going to defeat you. And Byakuya's like, you don't deserve my Bankai, you're not that strong. So Byakuya then releases his Shikai, the Senpon Sakura, and sends all of his beautiful petals towards Ichigo, who then uses his new attack of Zangetsu in its Shikai form to basically block the Senpon Sakura completely and also cut a huge gash in the land. And the attack that he did use also in training against Urahara, and I think in the Kenpachi he finally has a name. And basically that's where the episode ends, with him basically canceling out Senpon Sakura with his own attack and then challenging Byakuya once again to use his Bankai, this time with Byakuya not really having the same excuse to refuse, and that's our cliffhanger. So now that we've been reminded about what happened, it's now time to rank the episode. As always, we'll first rank on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. And on our mostly objective ranking list, we have, to start off, +2 points for the resolved battle between Yoruichi and Sui Feng. Then we have our multi-arc supporting character development worth 3 points, which is the backstory of Sui Feng and Yoruichi, and where all of that animosity on Sui Feng's part came from. Then the multi-arc supporting character growth Yoruichi uses Hanki, which is reverse demon, which is that demon magic reversal, which uses the same um, quantity and quality of demon magic, but the opposite property, which then cancels out whatever's being attacked. And then we have +4 for our multi-arc main character growth, and that's Ichigo's naming of his slash attack, which is Getsuga Tensho, which means Moonfang Heaven Piercer. And that brings us to 12 points. Because it was all battle scenes, there wasn't any negatives that applied to this episode, so that does make this a 10 out of 10. And so our mostly objective ranking so far, we have in first Flash Goddess Yoruichi Dances, The Despicable Shinigami, Ishida, The Utmost Limits of Power, Morning of the Sentence, Genichimaru's Temptation, Resolution Shattered, An Accomplished Oath, Get Back Rukia, Supersonic Battle, Determine the Goddess of Battle. Then this episode came in 8th, Senbon Crushed, Zangetsu Thrust Through the Sky, and it's in 8th place, again, because when more than one episode has the same score, we rank in episode order, followed by 9th, Hitsugaya Howls, The Strongest Shinigami, Ultimate Confrontation Between Teacher and Students, Overcome Your Limits, The Avengers, Rukia's Nightmare, Renji, Oath of the Soul, Deathmatch with Byakuya, Authentic Records, School of Shinigami, and then in 16th so far we have The Reviving Lion. So my personal ranking for this episode was an 8, and I chose an 8 because I really like the Ichigo Byakuya fight. We've been waiting for that, and that did take up most of the second half of the episode. The Ikkaku and Aiba kind of amicably drinking together before they decide to go ahead and continue their fight was amusing. And the epic clash of the demon magic at the start of the episode between Soifang and Yoruichi was awesome. However, the one thing I didn't personally like is, so I was really curious in the last episode of where this animosity between Soifang and Yoruichi came from and what that history might be, and I expected it to be something like awesome. And then it's just like a girl who with like really bad abandonment issues kind of going crazy. And I mean, like, Yoruichi, she left, she didn't say goodbye. That is rude, okay? But, like, I don't think that means you have to, like, hate her and try to surpass her and then try to murder her when you see her again. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. People come and go from people's lives all the time, and it's kind of reading. Well, like on this channel, we're also watching like Criminal Minds, for example, and it's kind of giving crazy stalker who's trying to kill the object of their obsession because their object of obsession doesn't necessarily return those feelings as strongly. That's the vibe I'm getting from Soi Feng, and I don't think that's a good enough reason to try to murder somebody and be like this affected by it. Like she's just been stewing for 100 years here about her leaving without saying goodbye. I think that's ridiculous. Like, I would have thought it would be like something like murdered someone she cared about, or, you know, maybe like said something terrible and beat her down as she was leaving, or, maybe betrayed the Shinigami and caused some sort of incident that took multiple lives and was why she was exiled for 100 years. And, I thought there would be something like of meaning, of substance, not just abandonment issues because she didn't say goodbye. Like, I just think it's so silly. And as a result of that disappointment, I couldn't give it a higher than an 8. And so 8 out of 10 is the final ranking for this episode, bringing the list to in first, An Accomplished Oath, Get Back Rukia, Ishida, The Utmost Limits of Power, Supersonic Battle, Determine the Goddess of Battle. I put this episode in 4th, Senbon Crushed, Zangetsu Thrust Through the Sky. 5th, The Despicable Shinigami. Then The Reviving Lion. Renji, Oath of the Soul, Deathmatch with Byakuya. Morning of the Sentence. In 9th, Hitsugaya Howls. Genichimaru's temptation, resolution shattered, Flash Goddess Yoruichi dances, the strongest Shinigami ultimate confrontation between teacher and students, the Avengers, authentic record School of Shinigami, Rukia's nightmare, and then in last place for me is Overcome Your Limits. Which now brings us to our series ranking so far. And in first with 84% on our mostly objective ranking, we have Agent of the Shinigami arc. Soul Society the Sneak Entry arc is second at 75.24%, and Soul Society the Rescue arc is currently at 137 out of a possible 220. On the personal ranking side, Agent of the Shinigami arc is also in first place with 63%. Soul Society the Sneak Entry arc was in 59.52%. Soul Society the Rescue arc so far has a score of 110 out of a possible 220. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Bleach Soul Society the Rescue arc, episode 57, Senbon Sakura crushed, Zangetsu thrust through the sky. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.